Yeah, so when we're studying about the Veda, so far we're studying about the Veda to understand what is there, what is the secret, why should we learn the Veda. And I thought that will not do justice if we do not study something of the Veda, the content. So this session and the next session, we will be dealing with 4 suktas. Sukta means a hymn. Like if you look at the Veda, Rig Veda, the entire content is very well organized. 10,000, like I take one Samhita, Rig Veda Samhita. The entire Samhita contains nearly 10,500 mantras. And these 10,500 mantras, say for example, like when you say mantra, you look at here, you have Sahasra Sirisha Purusha, Sahasraksha Sahasrapak, Sabhumim Sarvatah Sprushva, Atyatishtat Dashangulam. So this is one mantra. So like this you have 10,500 mantras. And these 10,500 mantras, if you go to any traditional Gurukula, the children have in their memory. And the way, say suppose you assign a particular date to the Veda, say 15,000 years before. Whatever was there 15,000 years before, today also you have the same thing without any distortion. No one has distorted the Veda. There is no addition. There is no addition. So, all these 10,500 mantras, they are divided into suktas. Sukta. Sukta means su-ukta, perfectly expressed. The perfect expression of a deeper realization of the truth is called Sukta. Perfect expression. Sukta. Su-ukta. Well said. Sometimes the Subhashitas are also called Sukta, Sukti. Su-ukta. Ukta is expressed.
So one Sukta will have one type of expression.
One Sukta will be a set of mantras. Like Sukta means complete. So for example, if you take one mantra, so it is, you don't get the complete idea about something. So a complete idea is presented by a set of mantras. So that set of the mantra, it's the perfect expression of a complete idea.
One particular topic.
Yes, one topic you can say.
One sutta has mantra. So when you said about 10,500, they are the mantras,
not the suktas. Suktas will be around 1028 suktas of Rig Veda. Yes. Yes.
So 1028 is
suktas. So number of suktas you have 1028 suktas. And in that you have 10,500 mantras. But these mantras are again organized. The suktas are organized. Okay, so they are organized. The content of the Veda is organized in a very structured manner. Like depending upon the rishis, the content. The first you have the Agni mantras. Then you have, it's not exactly that you have Agni, Indra, Mitra, Varuna, Sukta. They are scattered. But the rishis who have seen it, sometimes you will find the entire family of rishis, like one whole family, have contributed towards something. The 9th mandala. Now all these suktas again are divided into 10 books called mandalas. Okay, 10 books called mandalas. No. 10 mandalas. The total number of mandalas are 10. So in each mandala you will find number of suktas, and in each sukta you will find number of mantras. Yeah, Rig Veda. Only Rig Veda. Yes, and then you have Kanda, various divisions you have. So I will send a note about it. So which you all, actually they were there in the PPTs, which I didn't find any occasion to move ahead and show you the PPTs. Okay. So
Can the mandala as a section or?
section you can say. So 10 major sections divided into subsections called suktas, and then each sukta having mantras. Okay. So like this you have a Purusha Sukta, then you have a Nasadiya Sukta. Okay. Purusha Sukta. Shlokas are composed by the poets. They may be having the mantric power, but they are composed. Okay. It's not that shlokas will not have mantric power. They will have a force, because every word has power. Every sound has power. Amantram aksharam nasti. No akshar.
Shlok and
Sukta.
Mantra, Shlok, Bhagavata, Shlok.
Yeah. This is a style of composition. Sutra style of composition.
And Shlok?
Shloka is also a way of composition, set into different metrical patterns. Okay.
There is chandas in it.
Yes.
That understood by Vedic mantras are in which chandas?
The major chandas are 7. 7 major chandas. Anushtup, Trishtup, Jagati, Bruhati, Pankti, like this. The Purusha Sukta and the Nasadiya Sukta are two very important suktas from the philosophical point of view. What it describes, like how did this creation come? Because this is the biggest question. The story of creation is the longest story so far written. Unending story.
I would like to elaborate on the Brahman Sukta, where there is special, these people, for Sri area. So you clarify this point.
Yes, yes. We'll do that. So, Nasadiya Sukta, which we will be doing after this Purusha Sukta, maybe you can inform them that it begins with Na Asat. Na Asat Asit, Na Sat Asit. Neither there was Sat nor Asat. So that is why it becomes Na Asat, Nasat, Nasadiya Sukta. So belonging to a Sukta, a hymn belonging to or starting with Na Asat. That's why Nasadiya Sukta. And Purusha Sukta, where the whole description is how the Virat Purusha, Purusha the Supreme Reality, has given birth to this creation, how he became this multiplicity, became this creation. The most important part in Purusha Sukta is the fragmentation of Purusha. He divides himself to become this multiplicity. And to understand this, so we need to understand the whole, so this whole idea of involution and evolution. That's what one finds in a bija form, in a seed form in the Purusha Sukta. What is this involution and evolution? And what is our journey? And what is the purpose of life? And what is the power of human consciousness? So all these things we will be learning through the Purusha Sukta. Now, the Purusha, the Supreme Reality, who is described here, is infinite in its forms. It is formless, yet it can assume infinite form. Sahasra Sirisha. Sahasra is not confined to 1,000. Yes, infinite. It's immeasurable, it's uncountable. You cannot count it. So it is Sahasra Hasta, Sahasra Pada, Sahasra Sirsha. It's innumerable forms it can take place. Yet, what it says, like Atyatishta Dashangulam. It is seen as a 10-fingered height, like the size of a thumb, sometimes Angushta Matra or Dashangula Purusha. When they built temples also, they built that Vastu Purusha sometimes as the Dashangula, as the representative of the Virat Purusha. So, the idea is that it can assume the minutest form and the largest form. Then you see a Vishwarupa, where the same Krishna, Hanuman, that's a different story. Hanuman's story will be like Vyapti, Anima, Mahima, Laghima, those Siddhis. But Vishwarupa is something different. In the Vishwarupa, that Purusha can have the entire creation within itself. Like every one of us, we have the entire creation. Like every human being is a miniature of the entire universe. Because it is built on the same principles. It is built on the same principles. So you say that Pinda and Brahmanda, there is no difference between Pinda and Brahmanda. And because we feel it is different because of the separative ego, which makes us feel separate, always puts us in the state of duality, division. So the whole sadhana, yoga, is to establish this relationship between Pinda and Brahmanda, to become one with the Brahmanda. So then there is the Pinda Brahmanda Dvandva is not there. One becomes Dvandvatita. Dvandvatito Vimatsara. Yes, Dvandvatita. So now, the idea which is presented of the involution and evolution, how this creation comes about, the Parama Purusha, who is infinite, immeasurable, indescribable, unthinkable, imperishable. These are the epithets which are used. Avinashi, Achala, Sanatana, Avibhajya, Ameya, Anirvachaniya. So no one can really describe it, no one can even think of it. Yet the human thought has tried to grasp it, seize it. In whatever manner it has seized, it has presented it. So it gives a glimpse of that. That's why all these, ultimately, the Vedas, Upanishads, the philosophical texts, the highest kind of texts which describe that Brahman are also considered as Apara Vidya, the Vidya belonging to the lower side. The Paravidya is something which cannot be recorded. In Paravidya, one can just have the realization and the experience, but cannot be recorded. So the record of like that experience, that highest realization, one can put it into record, but then it becomes the Aparavidya. Okay. That's why merely studying the Vedas, Upanishads has never helped people to be happy. That's why Narad goes to Sanat Kumar and then says that, I have studied everything. So he says, what have you studied? Because this is the first question a guru asks when a matured student goes. He says, what have you studied and from whom have you studied? If there is something lacking, some gap, the other guru, he fills it. He helps making the knowledge complete. That's how you find Yagna helping so many other rishis for completing their knowledge, bringing perfection to their knowledge. So, the Para and Apara Vidya, so Narada goes to Sanat Kumar saying that teach me. He said, what have you learnt so far? Then he gives a long list of words, long list of subjects. Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharvaveda, all the Vidya, Chaturdasa Vidya, Ashtadasa Vidya, Dvatrinsha Vidya, whatever, the entire knowledge system he has. He said, but then why have you come to me? He said, but it doesn't give me the happiness. I am not happy. He said, then what do you want from me? He said, I want to become happy, and this is what I have learned, that Tarati Shokam Atmavit. Only when someone knows oneself can overcome all grief. So please teach me the technique of being Atmavit. Atmavit. So this is where Sanat Kumar again gives the teaching. But the same prescription may not work for others. One can take, then you said, wow, Sanat Kumar has given the technique, then let's get the technique and then be Atmavit. It's not that easy. Atmavit. Tarati Shokam Atmavit. The self-knower overcomes all griefs. If one has no knowledge of oneself, if one is not aware of oneself, can never experience Ananda fully, or can never overcome the grief. Tarati Shokam Atmavit.
Also, special that somebody says, Brahmavit Apnoti Param.
Yeah, yes. Brahmavit Apnoti Param. It goes beyond. Yes. Brahmavit goes beyond. The knower of the Brahman, he crosses beyond, or he knows the transcendental reality. You can say at one point, but it has to begin with Atman. Yeah. But Atman is also Brahman, Brahman is also Atman, but it has to start with the self-awareness. So that supreme reality, now he is alone, he is described as alone, Kevala, one without second, Advitiya, Ananta Gunavan, he is of infinite qualities, Ananta Rupavan, he can assume infinite forms. He is beyond Kala, Kalatita. He is beyond Guna, Gunatita. He is beyond Bhuvana, beyond the creation, Bhuvanatita. Yet, he is in Kala, he is in Bhuvana, Bhuvana Pravishta. He is also Ananta Gunava, Nirgunapi Saguna, Nirakaropi Sakara. So, the Nirananda that we feel, it is a distortion of Ananda, but it's not really Dukkha, the way we understand. So anyway, so this is how the supreme reality, the supreme Brahman, Parabrahma, Parameshthin, Paramatman is described. So that alone, that Kevala, that one without second, can never remain alone. There is a primordial desire to become many. So that's where it comes, Ekoham, Bahusyam, Prajayeyam. That I am alone, but I should become many. So that alone, that absolute can never remain absolute. It has to multiply itself. Yeah, that is never answered by any. That why does God create this creation? So the only answer given in the Shastra is Leela, for play, Leela. And what is that Leela? Anandartham Bhogartham, for enjoying the Ananda, enjoying himself within all that he has created. That is why everything that has been created here, the divine has created everything in this creation. He has made a little home for himself to live in everything and being. That is what is meant by Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam.
And given by us
Yes, enjoyed by the Supreme.
For our enjoyment.
Yes, for one Swanta Sukha. Swanta Sukha. So the God has enjoyed, God has created everything for enjoying Himself within everything that He has created. That's Leela. And it's an unending. It's unending. Otherwise it will not be called Leela. There is no gain, there is no victory and defeat in this Leela. It's pure enjoyment. Then only it will be called Leela. That's why the snake and ladder game, the Indian version, the last square has a snake's mouth. There is no end of the game. If it ends, it's not a game. It's not Leela. Huh? Yeah, whatever it is, the last one will have a snake's mouth. But the British version of that, it ends with 100 and then there the ladder it takes. And then if you reach 100, matter over, game over. But the Indian version, Mokshapatam or Leela, doesn't have the ending. It has only 72 squares. Okay. So you cannot arrive at 72nd.
You can say for self-enjoyment is Leela. For our enjoyment is Anuve for us. Anuve. For our enjoyment. Anuve on us.
Anugraha.
Anuve for us. Yeah.
Anuvaya of us. Okay.
Not aware.
Yeah, Maya.
Apu Kripa Abandi.
Acha.
For our enjoyment, Anuve on us.
No, it is, see, the enjoyment, like who is enjoying, you have to see. If the enjoyment is by the outer self, because we live in divided selves, two selves. One is our outer, projected, desire-driven, ego-driven self. One is our real self, where there is no division. Okay. So, therefore the Gita says, Uddhared Atmanatmanam. Deliver your real self, deliver your outer self by the real self. Uddhared Atmana Atmanam. It very clearly speaks of these two selves. Okay. So, our enjoyment at the ordinary level is by the outer desire-driven self. That causes all kinds of problems and dukkha. So, we need to turn inward to be in touch with our real self, and then when the real self starts enjoying, that will be the real enjoyment, true enjoyment. So the Shastras, the Veda, Vedanta, they do not tell us that reject the world. They say enjoy, bhunji tha. Enjoy the world, bhunji tha. But you should know the art and science of enjoyment. You should know how to enjoy, and then who is enjoying it. And the simple principle of true enjoyment given is tyaktena. Tyaktena means like one has to renounce. Renounce what? Not the world. If you renounce the world, then nothing remains for you to enjoy. So tyaktena means like the inner renunciation of all unnecessary desires and the sense of possession. That's the biggest obstacle in enjoyment. Like we possess things. This is mine. I alone have the right to enjoy this. No one else. So, when we are affected by the sense of possessiveness, possession, then the enjoyment cannot be true enjoyment. We cannot draw maximum ananda. If we draw some kind of ananda which we call maximum also, next moment with the same intensity it will become the cause of dukkha. Right? So, take for example in the day-to-day life, what gives you maximum and the true enjoyment, true ananda. Say for example, like you look at a beautiful moon, a beautiful sunrise. The ananda level is very different, pure. You don't start dancing. See, wow, what is sunrise? You don't dance with that. Because it doesn't create that kind of excitement. That kind of laughter it doesn't create in you. It brings much quietude and then you enjoy it truly. Because there is no sense. You can't say that, today's sunrise is mine. No one has right to enjoy it. You don't say that. Because that sense doesn't come. So the enjoyment level is very different. Pure enjoyment. That is tyaga, tyaktena bhunjita. So more the sense of possession, more is the, less is the enjoyment, more is dukkha in that. So that ananda cannot be a permanent ananda. So tyaktena bhunjita, ishavasyam, that the God has created a little home for himself to live in everything and being that he has created. Okay. And being in that, being in everything that it has created, so it wants to enjoy the world, enjoy itself by itself. That's Leela, and that's the purpose of the world. That's what we get the answer, like why he has created. Like when it has created it, when it says that bahusyam prajayayam, so what happens is that he fragments itself into many forms. That's where you see that the pada is somewhere, head is somewhere. This is called the fragmentation of the Purusha. So because the divine is involved at each stage of this creation, the God becoming man or becoming this creation, fragmenting itself. So at the absolute state, the God is all unity, oneness, unity of consciousness. And through this process of fragmentation, becoming multiple world, that unity of consciousness gets lost at each stage. And at the grossmost stage, that unity is completely lost, but essentially it is there. So this is half of the story of the creation called the involution. Okay. So if God is not involved in that, then the evolution cannot happen. So because it is involved at each step, because the creation is nothing but itself, the God itself, the Brahman itself. So this is half of the story. Now what is to be done? Now this creation has, this Sthula Jagat has manifest. Then what is the purpose of that? So this part is called the paradise lost. The unity of consciousness is lost. Now the paradise has to be regained. Okay. So that unity of consciousness has to be regained. Regained here, in this life, on this earth, ihaiva. That's why the Upanishads say ihaiva, ihaiva. Noche diha mahati vinashte. If not here, then it is a great loss. It has to be achieved here, at each stage of life. That unity of consciousness has to be regained. And that is the story of evolution. How it will be regained? It cannot be regained so easily because there are so many obstacles. What is the main obstacle? The separative ego, which creates the division. That ego has to be demolished in the process of regaining the unity of consciousness. So the whole sadhana is to how to demolish that separative ego sense. How to get rid of the projected, desire-driven, ego-driven self and remain concentrated within the real self. Then the true dhara of Atman can happen. Right? So, now the demolition of ego, how? Then the principle that has been given, the same principle has to be followed. How this creation has come? Because God has given Himself. Has given Himself through the process of self-giving. Now, the man has to give himself for its growth. He was alone, now he has grown to become this huge world. by self-giving. Now man, where in the Sthula Jagat, in the Sthula aspect, has lost, is not experiencing that unity of consciousness, so it has to grow towards that by demolishing the ego. How the ego can be demolished? The way found out by the rishis is the path of surrender. To grow by giving. This was the foundational principle of the Vedic rishis. To grow by giving. And then they say all those who do not give become a food of death. Okay. The eater eating is eaten. You become the food of death, all those who do not give. To grow by giving, the self-giving, by surrender, by self-giving, by opening oneself to the divine force, like what we discussed, that we have to keep the divine as our constant companion. We have to refer everything to the divine. That's how the ego will get demolished. And then the unity of consciousness can be regained. And that unity has to be regained at each level, at the physical level, at the vital level, at the mental level. It's not just physical unity or mental unity or vital unity. That's why when you go to Sri Aurobindo and the mother read, like it's not just the mental piece. In the mental piece also, like all the layers of the mind are taken care of. At the level of vital also, like all levels of vital are taken care of. Physical also, there are so many layers of physical which are taken care of. So the unity has to be gained at each level of our being. Then the total unity can be regained. That's the paradise regained. And this is the constant story. This is a cycle which goes on constantly. There's no static. There's no mutation. I mean, there are phases when the evolutionary mutation does happen. And that evolutionary mutation is described as dharma glani. When the dharma glani happens, adharma abhibhavatyuta, then the divine has to manifest in a special form with a special power to destroy what is becoming the hindrance and then take it forward. Make it possible for the rest of the humanity to move forward with that power. And that is what is the purpose and significance of avatarhood. Why God manifests time to time in a special form. That's again will be in a human form. So then it, in a human way, it makes it possible, the divine makes it possible for the rest of the humanity to move forward. So this is a cycle, involution and evolution, involution and evolution, the loss of the unity of the consciousness and regaining of the unity of consciousness. This is a constant process, it goes on and on and on. There's no mutation there, there's no static stage of the creation. So this is how the creation happens. This is the story of evolution and involution. And in that, here you will find in the Purusha Sukta that the different layers like Tripad Urdhva. So you have the Prajna, Hiranyagarbha, Virat Purusha. Then Yagnena Yajnam Ayajanta Deva is another powerful expression here in the Purusha Sukta. Like Yagna, Tasmat Yajnat Sarvabhuta. So from the Yagna again is central to the Vedic system of yoga. So what is that Yagna? That Yagna is not outer havan. Okay, it's not a ritualistic process. So every form of the Yagna, the ritual that happens, like you have the Yagna Vedi, the altar, then you have the Samidha, you have the Ghrita, the ghee which is offered. You have so many other ingredients which one needs to offer to the Agni. Okay. Then you have the Yajamana, you have the Purohita. There are so many components, so many ingredients which are involved in this process. But the true significance of Yagna is the self-giving. So Yagna means to give. Yaj means to give. So that Yagna, there is a Yagna of the Purusha, the Virat Purusha, because of which the creation becomes possible. Yagnena Yajnam Ayajanta. That means like the same Yagna again has to be performed for achieving that state wherefrom the Purusha has become this fragmented universe. That's the crux of the Purusha Sukta. So if we understand this much, then every part of Purusha Sukta will be understood. Now you see, then it is described that there is certain divine power which manifests in 4 different aspects. The power of wisdom, the power of strength, the power of harmony, love, harmony, the power of meticulousness or perfection. These are the 4 major powers of the divine, and the divine manifests in this multiple world, and especially in the human consciousness, carrying these 4 major powers. Okay. The power of wisdom, the power of strength, heroic strength, the power of love and harmony, then the power of meticulousness, hard work. No, hard work and meticulousness. Okay. So these are the 4 major powers with which the divine manifests in this world. And again, these 4 powers are concentrated. They belong to the human consciousness. Why human consciousness? Because human consciousness is the evolving consciousness. That evolutionary element is not there in other things or things other than whatever is there in this creation other than the human being. You have the plant kingdom, you have the animal kingdom, you have the inanimate object kingdom. They do not belong to the evolutionary phase. There is less possibility of evolution. So the possibility of evolution belongs only to the human beings. That's why when the human beings are created, the divine itself started dancing with joy, saying that Sukrutam, Vava, Sukrutam. So Vava, like in English you say wow. So in Aitharya Upanishad you have Vava. Sukrutam, Vava, Sukrutam. Wow, well done. I am so happy that I could manage creating this. And then the responsibility of each human being is also to raise himself to that state of God and then start dancing with wow, Sukrutam, I did a good job. Okay. So now, this evolutionary consciousness, now see, as per our tradition, the entire consciousness is divided into 5 forms. 5 forms. One is called the Sankuchita Chetana. Sankuchita Chetana, shrunken consciousness. One is called Achhadita Chetana or the covered consciousness. So Sankuchita Chetana, all the inanimate objects, everything, they belong to the Sankuchita Chetana, shrunken consciousness where there is Sankuchita Chetana or the shrunken consciousness. Shrunken consciousness where there is no possibility of evolution. There is no possibility of evolution. Okay. Then the Achadita Chetana, to which the animal kingdom and the plant kingdom belongs. Achadita Chetana. Achadita Chetana, where it's called the covered consciousness. Achadita Chetana. Yes, covered consciousness, to which the plant kingdom and the animal kingdom they belong, where there is a very mild possibility of evolution. So sometimes you find some plants which show some very special characters, say Ashwatha or Devadaru or Neem or Tulsi, something like that. I mean, they are considered almost divine. Okay. There is some divine element in it, but it cannot grow like the human being grows. Or certain animals also show the symptom of evolution, especially the cows, horses, donkeys, dogs, elephants, okay, but very rarely. But there is emotion in the plants, there are senses which are there, but they are more driven by the impulses. They belong to the pranic world. The animal kingdom, the plant kingdom, they are driven by the impulses. Now, human being, the humanity, belongs to the three layers of consciousness. Mukulita Chetana. First it is called Mukulita Chetana. Mukulita means budding consciousness. Budding consciousness means like you have the bud of a flower. It has all possibilities of blooming and becoming fully bloomed. Okay. So that Mukulita Chetana, carrying all possibilities of evolution, can from the Mukula state become a fully bloomed flower. So from Mukulita it can become Vikasita, bloomed, and Purna Vikasita, fully bloomed. So the journey of our life, the human life, is from Mukulita to Purna Vikasita. Mukulita, Vikasita and Purna Vikasita. The budding consciousness, blooming consciousness and fully bloomed consciousness. So that can happen when all these four powers are manifest in the human consciousness. These four powers, the power of wisdom, the power of heroic strength, the power of love and harmony, the power of meticulousness or hard work. This is what is again described here as the Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra. Brahmanasya mukhamasit, bahurajanya krita. Okay. Urutadasya Vaishyasya. So like this, and the Shudra belongs to the feet. So Brahmana, it refers to these four powers in the Purusha Sukta. The power of wisdom. So these are again, like if we look at the temperament, like each human being has all the four temperaments within itself. But one of these temperaments will be the prominent temperament. Like some people, they more fall into the knowledge, wisdom, they seek after that. Some people, their temperament is, like Kshatriya temperament, even though there is knowledge and everything, but they are more into the heroic fighting mode. Okay. Then immense strength. Then you have the love and harmony. So like they want, why so much of fight and all these things? So we have to be in love, in harmony, equal distribution. So that is the Vaishya Shakti. So the Brahma Shakti, Kshatra Shakti, Vaishya Shakti. Then the hard work and meticulousness is the Shudra Shakti. Shudra Shakti, but Shudra needs more physical strength for hard working and then attaining to perfection. Attainment of perfection is not an easy job. Meticulousness, skillfulness, these belong to the Shudra Shakti. There's more strength on the ground. It has to be grounded. That's why it is feet. Okay. And strength is connected with the Bahu Rajanya Kruta. Okay. Uru. Uru is the thigh. So Uru refers to the Vishalata, the law of harmony. Without that, like Udara Charitata, one cannot, manifest love and harmony. So that's why the thigh, this part, is symbolically referring to the Vishalata, Udarata, like one has to be Udar. So these four powers, the human consciousness contains. Every one of us. So everyone at the same time is a Brahmin, is a Kshatriya, is a Vaishya, is a Shudra. If someone says that I am a pure Brahmin, I am a pure Kshatriya, I am a pure Shudra, I am a pure thing, it's nothing like that. So everyone has all the four powers. One is predominant. So what do the rest of the powers do when one is predominant? So the rest of the powers, they must collaborate with the predominant power for the fulfillment. They must add completion to it. So Sri Aurobindo very meticulously, very categorically says in synthesis, in Essays on the Gita, in Sapta Chatushtaya record of yoga, that a Brahmin is not a complete Brahmin if he has not manifest the Kshatriya Shakti, Vaishya Shakti and Shudra Shakti within himself. A Shudra is not a complete Shudra if he has not manifested the Kshatriya, Vaishya and Brahman Shakti. A Kshatriya is not a complete Kshatriya if he has not manifested the Brahma Shakti, Vaishya Shakti and Shudra Shakti. So it applies to every power. Then one will be a Purna Yogi, the integral personality. Then one attains to that fully bloom, Purna Vikasita Chetana, Purnatva. Okay. Now Sri Aurobindo, he links these four powers to the four powers of the Divine Mother, which is at the center of the Mother's symbol. So Maheshwari, representing the Brahma Shakti, the power of wisdom. Mahakali, representing the Kshatriya Shakti, the power of the Kshatriya. Okay. So Maheshwari, the Mahalakshmi, the power of strength, the Kshatriya Shakti. Then Mahalakshmi, Mahakali. Maheshwari is wisdom, Mahakali is strength, okay, Kshatriya Shakti. Mahalakshmi is the Vaishya Shakti. Vaishya Shakti manifesting love and harmony. Okay. Then Mahasaraswati representing the Shudra Shakti, manifesting the power of meticulousness, hard work. Okay, that's why Sri Aurobindo says Mahasaraswati will not tolerate anything chaotic, anything messy. She demands that perfection in everything. She demands the utmost beauty, utmost perfection in everything, utmost skill in everything. So doing the Upasana of Mahasaraswati, Upasana of Mahakali, Upasana of Mahalakshmi or Maheshwari is to manifest these powers within one's own consciousness. So that is the connection with the Brahmanasya Mukham Asit. For the first time in the Veda, in any literature, you find the mention of this Brahma Shakti, Kshatriya Shakti, Vaishya Shakti, Shudra Shakti in the Purusha Sukta. Okay. So that's a little bit of deeper explanation to the Purusha Sukta. Now let's turn to the Nasadiya Sukta. Yeah, synthesis of yoga, essays on the Gita, record essays on the Gita, then chapter there also chapter 4. Then you have Sapta Chatushtaya, which is a part of record of yoga. Okay. can be, but these are the primordial Shakti before the creation, which I am going to discuss next when the Nasadya Sukta, the process of creation, again linking it to Ekoham Bahusyam Prajayam. So,
the secret of Veda, he has not given an interpretation of
he has hinted upon it, yes, this whole evolution, involution and the Pinda Brahmanda relationship, yes. But he has not interpreted fully the Purusha Sukta. The Nasadya Sukta he has done entirely. Yes, that's where I have the translation here from Sri Aurobindo. Purusha Sukta I didn't add because it doesn't have. Yeah. Okay, so Vikasita and Purna Vikasita.
which mandala?
10th mandala. See, Mukulita, Sankuchita, Achadita, Mukulita, Vikasita. 5th is Purna Vikasita. 5 layers of that.
Are there examples for Sankuchita?
Yeah, Sankuchita Chetana is all like inanimate objects, this pen and everything. No, the Purusha Sukta also like appears differently in the Veda, like the main one in the Rig Veda, which has only 16 mantras. So there are portions where you have 18 mantras and then 24 mantras also. They are not same, the additional mantras are there. Okay, so
you do it and the Kshatri. This is struggle but skilled. This is struggle but unskilled.
who?
Unskilled struggle. Skilled here, no? Skilled. And the word skilled. This is less skilled.
Less skill in the faith. It has to, no, it is, we call it that, but it is, so feet represent that one has to be very grounded perfectly. Yes. That is what is the explanation. Yeah, foundation. And that foundation cannot take place without perfection in everything. In everything. Perfection in everything, not just in words. Yes. When we say the movement or the work or activities, so it includes physical, emotional, sensational, mental, psychological, spiritual, at every level. But here, like when it comes to the Sudra's perfection, more on the ground level, like everything, hard work, meticulousness. Yes. It doesn't step back from anything unless and until that perfection is attained to. Okay.
Totally a misinterpretation that has gradually entered and distortion that
Yeah. There are so many distortion at so many levels. So, yes. So, let's concentrate a little bit on the Nasadya Sukta, which begins with this mantra. Nasadasin no sadasin tadanim nasid rajo na vyoma na paroyat kimavariva kuhakasya sharman nambha kimasid gahanam gabhiram. So, it begins with this mysterious description of that there is neither Sat nor Asat. It gives this explanation of the nothingness. There was nothing, in the sense that something which is the cause of the entire creation cannot be described as Sat, nor it can be described as Asat. It is both, Sat and Asat. Later in the Upanishads, when we come, we will find the elaboration of this, that he is Sadasad Rupa. He is both Sat and Asat. Sadasad Atita. He is also transcends both Sat and Asat.
Sat means existence.
Sat means existence. Asat means, yeah. The thing is, like if you want to understand Sat and Asat, Asat is the unmanifest stage of Sat. Okay. What has manifest is Sat. What has not yet manifest is Asat. Okay. So if you carry this sense, then many of the verses and crucial verses in the Gita also will become clear. The Puranas also will become clear. So manifest and unmanifest state of Sat and Asat. Same, yes. Sambhuti and Asambhuti. So it says neither there was Sat nor there was Asat. Nothing was there. And it is from there it comes. So how the process begins, again we discussed in the last, this session previously, that the primordial desire to become many, like from that state of nothingness, so suddenly there surges or desire to manifest, to become many. That is the primordial Ichha Shakti. It's called the Ichha Shakti, where from everything comes, because of which everything comes. The infinite becomes this finite world because of the Ichha Shakti. Now what happens? Once the Ichha Shakti has become prabala or intense, once the Ichha has taken place that I should manifest in multiple forms or I should become something. Next word, think of an architect, think of a sculptor, think of a painter, think of a poet, think of some worker. Like suppose an architect, he desires to do something. What is next step? Next step is visualization. Like once the Ichha is there to create something, to be something, next step is visualization. That one has to visualize, like, what should I become? How should I become? And then that also doesn't happen partially. It is a total visualization of the thing. Like an architect doesn't visualize what is going to be created in parts. The whole thing is held in the vision. So when God had the Ichha Shakti of creating this, so He holds the entire creation in His vision completely. But it can be, further extended, but there is a basic, the blueprint, that all these are the foundational aspects which have to be there. The blueprint has to be there entirely in the vision. That's where it says, so akamayata ekoham bahusyam prajayeyam. Then it says, tad aikshata. He looked at himself, he perceived, he saw himself, he visualized what it would become. That is why every perception, everything that is perceived, every object like me, you, he, she, this pen, this notebook, everything that exists here is perceived, is seen by God. Means it is held in His vision. So He has looked at it. That is why everything is called loka. Loka comes from the root sound lok, means to see. The English look also comes from the same root sound, loka. This world is called loka. I am called loka. Every object is called loka because it is the perception. It is held in the vision of the divine. So that's what is the next stage of visualization. Seeing in what are the different forms that it can manifest. Okay. So now, tada aikshata. The next stage is called the kriya shakti. Once the blueprint is prepared, then the actualization happens. So how do you bring it to the actual form? Kriyanvayan. So you put it into actionable format. So that's what is the kriya shakti. So Ichha Shakti, Jnana Shakti and Kriya Shakti. That applies to every phase. That applies to a Brahmana, that applies to a Kshatriya, that applies to a Vaishya. Because these are the primordial things. Like if a Kshatriya also has to have the Ichha Shakti of manifesting the Brahma Shakti, Vaishya Shakti and Shudra Shakti within itself. Then it has to see how. Then it has to actualize the process to actually manifest it. So these are operative at every level, from the highest to the lowest, Ichha, Jnana and Kriya. Without it, nothing will move. So here the description is that out of that nothingness, out of that darkness, like then you will see that tama asit tamasa godham. You can say, you can just read it. There are not many mantras, just 7 mantras, I think, in the Nasadya Sukta. Then it says, na mrityu asit, na amritam. Na mrityur asit amritam, na tarhi, na ratriya, anna asit apraketa. Anida vatam swadhaya tadekam, tasmad hanyan, na parah kinchanasa. So there was no death, there was no sense of, like what is not death nor immortality. There was no knowledge of the day, like no one was aware of what is light, what is darkness, nothing was there. So there was one and lived without the breath by its own fixity. There was nothing else beyond it. Nothing beyond it, nothing below it, nothing. So it just refers to nothingness. Then what happens? Tama asit, tamasa gurham, agre praketam, apraketam salilam, sarva edam. Tuchena abhvapihatam, yad asit tat tapas tan mahinaja tad mahina ajayataekam. So darkness was concealed by darkness. Just imagine that situation. Darkness concealed by darkness. And this is what the Tantra describes as Dhumavati. Among the Dasa Mahavidya, the Tantra, you have a goddess, you have one Mahavidya called Dhumavati. It refers to that Tama Asit Tamasa Gudha. Darkness concealed by darkness. And then in the beginning was all this ocean of inconscience, you can say, apraketam salilam. And perception was not in it. That is the inconscient ocean. When by littleness it was covered up in chaos, abhva, anything dark, dense, unformed, then that which was one was born by the vastness of its energy. So that again like moves forward to become this multiple world.
So it is like the Vedas, Big Bang,
You can say that, yes.
Translation by Sri Aurobindo.
Yes, this translation by Sri Aurobindo. Yes. Right. Kamastadagre samavartatadhi manaso retah prathamam yadasit sato bandhu sati niravindan hrudi pratishya kavayo manisha. He said desire in the beginning became active. That was first seed of mind. This is where you can link it with the Ichha Shakti and Kriya Shakti, Jnana Shakti. The wise ones sought in their heart and found by thought the bond of being and non-being. So how they linked? Because of this wisdom, because of this awareness, they could have the relationship between being and non-being. Tiraschino vitatu rasmi resham agha svid asid upari svid asid reto dha asan mahimana asan swadha avastha prayatih parastha. Their ray was extended horizontally. It was above, it was below. There were casterers of the seed. There were mightinesses. Self-fixity was below. Working of energy was above. So from above, it worked out everything on the ground. It started creating or preparing the blueprint. Ko Adha Veda. Actually, if you see in the Nasadya Sukta, it doesn't give answer to many things. It raises so many questions. Ko Adha Veda ka iha vochat kuta ajata kutayam visrushti arvag deva asya visarjanena atha ko veda yat ababhuva. He says, who knows this? Who here can declare it, describe it? Whence, where from this creation has come? How it has taken birth? Whence was this losing forth of the things? Like how different things were created. The gods exist below by its creation. Creation is losing forth. It's called Visrushti because it is not separate from the divine, the supreme reality, but it releases itself, like the divine releasing itself to become everything in this creation, extending itself. So, lose forth is the root sense of Srishti and Visrushti. So, Visarjana. So, Visrushti is another like Visarjana. Like we do the Ganesha Visarjana, we do the Durga Murti Visarjana. That means we throw it. So, this is called Srishti or Visarjana, Visrushti, because the divine, the Paramishti itself has thrown itself into this world to become this. And that throwing itself, losing forth is called also the giving up of the divine himself, the self-giving. That itself is seen as a Yagna. Okay. So, he says, who can know where from it has come? How did this creation begin? And the last mantra here says, Yam visrishtir yata ababhuva yadiva dadhe yadivana yo asyadhyaksha parame vyomant so anga veda yadiva naveda. He says, where from this creation has come? How can someone know whether the supreme Purusha, the Parameshtin, the Paramatman, the Parabrahman, he established it or not, or he did not establish it? He who regards it from above or presides over it in the highest Vyoman, he knows, or perhaps he knows it not. So he says that, we don't know whether even the Parameshtin knows about the truth of it or he does not know about it. So it leaves with so many questions, and the answers of these many questions are to be found in the later Vedantic tradition in the Upanishads, where we have the elaborate description of the Brahman and the creation and everything.
This is Kavi, Manishi, Paribu, Swayambhu.
Yes.
We see the three Kavi, Manishi and Manisha is there. Kavi and Manishi.
Swayambhu.
So if Manisha is there, could be connected with that?
It can be connected. That's where it says, where is that mind which could think of, that pure mind which could think of how it happened. That pure mind, that Manisha itself, it linked the being and non-being. It established that relationship. So apart from these, two suktas, there are many other suktas, and especially the suktas of the mantras by Dirghatama, which are very cryptic mantras, very highly philosophical mantras which one finds in the Rig Veda. So that was all a little explanation to the Purusha Sukta and the Nasadiya Sukta. In the next, we will see the first and the last Sukta of Rig Veda. That we will do it little elaborate way before we end the workshop.
Is this an artificial attempt to describe which is not descriptive?
By the Ishopanishad. Artificial in the sense?
Because the creator is not describing.
Yeah, see, it is said that it cannot be described, but whatever way they have realized it, so they are describing that. That's why the Rishi says, Yadrugeva dadrushe tadrugu uchyate. What I have seen, I am describing that. But yet, it cannot be described fully. The human consciousness itself, like if you look at the Vishwarupa Darshana, the human consciousness itself is not yet ready to accept the God in its total form. That's why Arjuna says, Somya Rupa Bhava. I can't bear this. Come back to your normal form. It's unbearable to me. The human consciousness is not yet ready. So, the divine in its total form cannot be grasped by this limited consciousness. But it can give a description, like Arjuna can describe something like, I saw all these things, but you calm down. Come to that, the Somya Rupa is fine to me. My friend, my Shakha is fine. I can't bear this. And it was necessary also for Krishna to show him, so then Arjuna gets convinced fully. Till he saw the Vishwarupa, he had doubt. He is not fully convinced. Huh? Yes. Yes, and the Purusha Sukta, the Rishi name is Narayana. And for the Nasadya Sukta, it is Parameshtin. Maybe some Rishi by that name, or the Rishi has ascribed it to the Supreme.
I have 2 minutes time to, I would like to know itself. It's like something where my brain going on now. Regarding Nasadiya, the only Sukta which is maximum referred by world famous astrophysicists of the astro is Nasadiya Sukta, including Nada. There are some scientists and they are trying to read and say there was nothing, it was beyond beginning, beyond end, and they are trying to do it. Any Indian Sri Aurobindo's explanation is our only explanation we like to read. Anything else coming out, this is something which is not even telling about sadhana, yoga, it is something about the cosmos. So they are saying this is not any religion or anything, it's totally cosmos. And people are trying to understand and then saying that this is the actual truth. And all Western scientists, I got at least 20-30 articles.
Actual truth of what?
Nasadiya Sukta is being studied with the translation by astrophysicists. About,
If I can add something.
you can add something to it.
So I think after so much of development in physics and astronomy over all this time, right, what they have discovered is whatever is the universe, the galaxies, everything that they see is only 5% of what is actually there. The rest is what they call it as dark energy and dark matter. Nasadiya Sukta, it talks about the dark matter, for darkness it was dark. So I think with this they are able to do some correlation between dark energy and dark matter, and maybe if there is a reference to that in the Nasadiya. I think that's where the interest comes.
Our recent Nobel laureate who got into physics also, they also in the Nasadiya mentioned about this. This Nasadiya Sukta exceeds the knowledge that has been gained by astrophysicists.
Yeah, I think
The universe is universe. What is beyond universe?
Yeah, universe is also a limitation thing.
What
What they could see is or imagine is. Dark matter is what is mentioned in the recent physicists who got the. So they are referring to Nasadiya Sukta and they are mentioning about Nasadiya.
What am I going to do?
one question. In the Vedas, there is frequent reference of Hiranyagarbha. What is Hiranyagarbha as a concept?
Yeah, they call it as like you have the Prajna, Hiranyagarbha and the Virat Purusha. So where like the darkness concealed with darkness, when we say the Hiranyagarbha, like there is this possibility of manifesting the light. The light is seen as a golden light, the Hiranyagarbha. So it carries within that
Potential.
yes, and manifesting it in the world. That becomes the cause of manifesting it. That's a phase where the possibility of manifesting it, the power and technique of manifesting it is happening.
So can we say that then there are four phases. Right? One is the absolute Virat Purusha, which is absolute life. Then there is this desire to manifest. That is one phase. And then there is a potential to manifest. That is another phase. And then the manifest.
The actualization of the manifestation.
This is the Purusha Sukta.
Yeah.
So is it,
You can correlate with that. Yes.
Narayana Sukta, another Sukta, there also it speaks about but more on the manifest portion of the Purusha. Purusha Sukta in the cosmic
Yes.
and Narayana Sukta more onto the manifest.
We have such a beautiful, vast, and enjoyable philosophy. Other philosophers do enjoy that. We enjoy it. And we have kept it under the carpet. Peaceful class or peaceful class, they do not give 0.001% happiness. Which nation has this? Which country has this? It is a fashion of this. And very ignorant history about all this. Responsibility. We are there, some we are not species, we are not there. Bhagwan and so many are there. Something we are doing, but these big Bhagwan and big these Shankaracharya, they are not doing anything about this. They are doing. Scientists are doing.
But there is some amount of ambiguity in that. They ask questions. We don't know. Even that person doesn't know.
Hey, it says, I am not sure whether even the Parameshti who created, he knows about it.
Whereas
We call it that is the Kavayopyatra Mohita. The great rishis also, like Jnanis, are mohita about it, deluded about it. This question cannot be answered in a convincing manner. That's why the search is constant.
as compared to some other books which say no, world was created like this.
No, but see here, but the question there is that in science there is a finality. So in spirituality there is no finality. The simple rule is that you cannot have something final.
so the fact that it is posed in a question shows the inability of the answer, I mean inability to get to the answer.
It shows a high tolerance for ambiguity.
Yeah, okay.
No, that's the way. As opposed to if somebody comes from a culture where they are used to, one book which says this exactly happened so many days, this is how it happened. Then they want answers. There is very low tolerance for answers.
True. This is also one way of looking at it. So he said like this kind of ambiguities and questions which are raised, it shows the high tolerance for ambiguity. Good. Parameshti.
Beyond the comprehension of human mind, even if for the rishis,
Yeah.
the vastness is so great that even it is beyond even the minds of the rishis.
Yeah, that is one. In the Vishwarupa Darshan, the Arjuna is not seeing with his physical eyes. He has given a special Divya Drishti. Even then, that cannot tolerate and bear it.